Welcome to Waters World. I'm Jesse Waters. We're winning. That's the subject of tonight's Waters Words. Last week, we told you how the media committed suicide to drag Biden over the finish line. Now, their credibility's shot, and the truth's coming out. So Russian bounties were a lie. Cuomo was no hero. DeSantis was. The protests weren't peaceful. Trump didn't gas protesters for a church photo op. COVID probably came from a lab Fauci funded. Masks apparently don't work, but hydroxy reportedly does. The laptop's legit. Hunter lobbied his dad to fire the prosecutor and casually drops N-bombs when he's not dodging paternity tests from strippers he knocked up after getting bribed with diamonds from communist China. It's moving in our direction. Finally, we're winning. The left's losing, and folks are starting to jump ship. How do I know we're winning? I look at the left, and their top talent sounds just like us.
I have never seen a president covering the last four of them who is so protected by his aides in terms of often not wanting him to answer some questions.
Well, what was it that gave it away, CNN? Was it your lack of access? The lack of press conferences? Biden saying he'll get in trouble if he talks to you? So the media is starting to confess they're not a free press. Most are okay with Biden hiding because the more he talks, the less sense he makes, and that hurts Democrats. So the media has this pathetic arrangement with the White House. Protect Biden from himself. This can't last. The longer it does, the more the media is exposed in the cover-up, and they can't afford another cover-up after that last election. One cover-up's cracking after the other. The lab leak broke open on late night.
There's a chance that this was created in a lab. There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well,
oh my
if there was
God.
evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan Novel Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle.
Stewart finally hit it a year after we did. But that's okay. Better late than never. Stewart's retired. Guy lives on a farm. The corporate media doesn't control him, so he's free to point out the obvious. But if you're a rank and file corporate personality, you can't go there. Parent companies like AT&T, Disney, Comcast, they have big stakes in China. And they can't zero in on the lab because Beijing will just start yanking their licenses. They put profit over the truth, which is why it takes an old comedian who isn't on the payroll to say what everybody else is thinking. The Washington Post, owned by Bezos, big money at play for him in China, still trying to control the narrative. They blast Stewart. Celebrities aren't experts, they say. I'll remember that the next time Jane Fonda lectures us on global warming. Even the scientists are confessing their sins. Now, the scientists, they want a lab leak investigation. We waited because we didn't want to be associated with Trump, they say. You can't make this up. A scientist didn't want to find the truth because of politics. Thanks for nothing, Doc. Charles Barkley has had it with the PC police, calls corporate suits cowards.
The PC people are out overboard right now. If people disagree with you, they're going to get fired. But they're coming for your head. You know, and a lot of our bosses are cowards. Now, if you crack a joke the wrong way, they're like, oh, no, you crossed the line. I mean, they won't even let me talk about San Antonio anymore. You know, when I'm always talking about them big old women down in San Antonio.
Chuck's been joking about big old women in San Antonio for years. It's part of his shtick. He loves them. It's just a joke, but the mob's mad at Barkley now for fat shaming. Barkley, fat shaming. Nobody's been more fat shamed than Charles. His nickname is the round mound to rebound. The NBA has cracked jokes about Chuck's weight for decades. It's all in good fun. That's why we tune into TNT. We're all laughing at ourselves here. These guys are all stars, not politicians. Chris Rock gets it.
What happens is everybody gets safe.
Right.
And when everybody gets safe and nobody tries anything, things get boring.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I see a lot of unfunny comedians. I see unfunny TV shows. I see unfunny award shows. I see unfunny movies because everybody's scared to make a move.
Notice something? It's the comedians leading the jailbreak here. There's nothing funny about being offended, and the truth isn't safe. It's just the truth. Bill Maher was one of the first victims of cancel culture, fired from ABC decades ago over 9/11 comments. Maher's on HBO now, so he can basically say whatever he wants. And what he wants to say is this: America's made progress on race.
Kevin Hart expressed a view many hold when he told the New York Times, "You're witnessing white power and white privilege at an all-time high." This is one of the big problems with wokeness, that what you say doesn't have to make sense or jibe with the facts or ever be challenged, lest the challenge itself be conflated with racism. But saying white power and privilege is at an all-time high is just ridiculous. Higher than a century ago, the year of the Tulsa Race Massacre? Higher than the years when the KKK rode unchecked and Jim Crow went unchallenged? Higher than the 1960s when the Supremes and Willie Mays still couldn't stay in the same hotel as the white people they were working with? Higher than during slavery? And I mean actual slavery, not Prince doesn't like his record contract slavery.
Facts cannot be racist. And it's a fact that America's less racist today than it's ever been, which is why critical race theory is so dangerous. It's dragging us backwards. This parent sees it.
So when you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? I work for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You going to sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory?
The only way the mob wins is if they stick together. That's how communism lasted so long. No dissent in the ranks. But the left's losing control of their narratives because they're losing the argument. It's like the emperor with no clothes. Once one person says the truth, all their lies come crashing down. Joining me now for reaction, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. All right, Governor, you have a great tan. I'm very jealous, but I do want to get serious with you about this. Do you feel like the tide is turning in this country with all these things I just laid out?
I absolutely do, Jesse. And I've said to Republicans, we just need to be a bit patient here because the Democrats are going to do what the Democrats have always done, except this time they're going to do it more radically than they ever have before. When Bill Clinton won in 1992, they overreached. We took back the Congress in 94 with Hillary Care. In 2008, Barack Obama wins. He overreaches with Obamacare and many other things. We take back the Congress again. And it was nowhere near what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing here. So I think it's moving in our direction. We got to keep looking forward, putting forward our positive agenda, and fighting them every day on these issues. Don't give them any room to breathe.
And one of the things that they're really treading water with is crime. It's exploding now. It's every other day. I mean, some guy's going into a bodega and getting his head beat in. You were a big-time prosecutor. You've known how to handle these issues. What are we needing to do right now to get a handle on this if the Democrats aren't going to give us any help?
Well, look, as Republicans all across this country, we need to be talking about this issue and standing up for and empowering our police. Right now, I can tell you, I've been speaking to police here in New Jersey who come up to me and say, we wish you were back, we feel abandoned. And when those men and women feel abandoned, they simply cannot do their job. When they feel like they're the problem, rather than the people committing crimes, because that's what Democratic politicians here in New Jersey and all across the country are saying, that's a huge problem. So we need to be standing up, fighting, and speaking on their behalfs all the time. And in the states where we control things, we need to be making sure that we're getting tougher and tougher on violent crime. And
psychologically, I don't know if you've noticed this, Governor, but the airplanes are out of control. You go on a flight, it's mostly Southwest, no offense, Southwest, but people are just losing it. They're confronting stewardesses, they're kicking people. It's absolute Armageddon in the sky. What's going on right now? Are people just crazy after COVID and they don't remember how to behave? Or have we just not taken a hard enough line?
I believe it's both, Jesse. I do think that people are crazy after COVID because these restrictions were placed too hard for too long. Take a look at New Jersey, for instance. Here, we had some of the toughest restrictions in the country, if not the toughest restrictions for the longest time. Yet, more people per capita died in New Jersey than anywhere else in the United States. People know this, they're recognizing it, they're frustrated, they're angry, they see what's happening with their educational system, and they're taking that anger out everywhere they go.
You mentioned the education system, critical race theory. It's just exploding. There's a huge backlash against it. We played some sound earlier. Let's play some more of this gentleman who's really just pouring his heart out at this meeting.
Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. Absolutely. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense?
So education was a big priority for you in New Jersey when you were governor. So do you suggest parents just rise up? Is that the only way we're going to be able to snuff this out?
It is the only way, and the people in our party should be encouraging parents to do that all over the country. Look, what we learned is, especially now in the Biden administration, that the teachers union runs the White House when it comes to education policy. Jill Biden is a teachers union member. She has said that the teachers union will have a seat in Joe's White House for as long as he's here. And their policies, as you could see, were all being created by the teachers union. And I fought this for 8 years in New Jersey, Jesse, and we need to stand up because it's even worse now. I'll give you one quick example. In Randolph, New Jersey, the Board of Education voted to remove the names of all holidays off of the calendar because they wanted to name Columbus Day Indigenous Persons Day, and we're getting pushback. So they said, we're removing Memorial Day, we're removing Labor Day, we're removing Veterans Day. This is insanity, and this is what's going on. It's teachers union driven, supported by the White House.
And quickly tell us about your vaccine situation. At the border because of Hunter. And Waters World hits the streets to discuss the Biden-Putin summit. How would you, if you were president, get tough on the Russians?
Well, I don't know. Them Russians is crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
Cartels creating a bloodbath at the border. Kidnappings, assassinations. They're murdering Mexican police officers asleep in their homes. This is the CJNG cartel, one of the most violent and powerful. They have their own elite teams of killers, professionally trained and have access to technology that even American law enforcement can't even get. Biden's being beat at the border. There's just no other way to spin it. Joining us now with an exclusive look, Laura Logan, host of No Agenda on Fox Nation. All right, so Laura, what are the images we're looking at? These guys look like U.S. Navy SEALs.
Yep, they are exceptionally well trained, and this group is their name is the elite group, and what they are enforcers for Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, which is CJNG, and they specialize in targeted assassinations, executions, kidnappings, and all the rest of it. And this gear isn't just for show, Jesse. They're wearing cell phone jammers on their uniforms, which are critical because many of the cartels have now adopted a tactic that terrorists in the Middle East have used very successfully, which is targeting people with drones and using drones to drop bombs on opposing cartels and on the Mexican armed forces. I've experienced a little taste of that on the battlefield in Mosul with the Iraqi Special Operations troops fighting to take back Mosul. I was with a commander who was being hunted by these drones, and I can tell you it's pretty terrifying. and very effective. So they use the cell phone jammers to stop those attacks. They use them to prevent people from calling for help or calling for their families when they're, when they're doing kidnappings. And they also use them for, very sophisticated maneuver operations on the battlefield where they can mask their routes, they can mask their attacks, and also they can mask their exfil from, the way they exit a difficult situation.
And Laura,
and so it requires a lot of training, and it's a real threat.
You mentioned off air that there has been a hostile takeover of one of the major cartels south of the border. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Gulf Cartel has been around since the 1980s. They control much of the Texas border. The CDN has a little bit around Laredo, but really around Roma, Texas, the most important smuggling route. All of that area has been Gulf Cartel for a very long time. And Cartel Jalisco New Generation, CJNG, have now absorbed much of the Gulf Cartel. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing an uptick in fentanyl along the border and,
so it's a merger.
And other levels of violence going up.
Right, it's just like a corporate takeover here in the United States. These big companies, they get bigger, they take them over, and the profit margins get even higher because they have vertical lines of distribution. Thanks, Lara.
Okay.
So, did people pay attention to the Biden-Putin summit? And did any of it make sense? The Putin-Biden summit, we came back empty-handed. Putin's been hacking us to pieces, and so Biden invited him for a summit, handed Putin a list of targets we don't want him to hack. That's it. Biden called the summit constructive. So when the press asked Biden a simple question, he lost his cool.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident in changing behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident? Let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that. You're in your own business.
Ooh, that's the most memorable part of the whole deal. So, do people know actually what happened at the summit or that the summit even happened itself? Waters World, of course, hit the streets to find out. What did you think of the summit?
There was a recent summit. Oh my God.
What's on that?
I thought it was a joke.
Very disappointed. Biden really didn't do too much. Putin came out a winner.
I must break you.
The big summit this week, what was your reaction?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the people who, came in and did what we had to do.
Do you know what summit I'm talking about?
No.
Putin's been hacking the hell out of us. So Biden went over there and gave Putin a list of targets he's not allowed to hack.
I lost you at Putin.
How would you, if you were president, get tough on the Russians?
Well, I don't know. Them Russians is crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
It's Russia. I would tell him just the way Trump told him.
There's been no president ever as tough as I have been on Russia.
Putin's really going to listen to what Biden tells him to do? I mean, come on now, Biden. Take a stronger stance. Don't just hand him a piece of paper.
When Trump was over in Europe, he dropped sanctions on the Russians and he yelled at a female reporter.
Oh, Trump is he's an
Actually, that was Joe Biden that did that.
That was Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I told you so.
What do you think Biden's done really well so far?
Well. Yeah, you got to give me a minute on this one.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, I probably cannot pick one accomplishment.
Come on, man.
What do you think about Joe Biden's vice president?
What's good? This is diversity, you know.
Who is Joe Biden's VP?
I'm not too sure.
Can I give you a hint?
Yes.
Kamala.
Kamala. COVID hit me.
Kamala. Or Kamala, however she wants to be called.
Kamala, you have to say it. Kamala.
Don't offend her.
I don't want to offend her. That's the only time she gets spiced up.
Do you miss Trump?
Do you miss me yet?
I think he did better on, what was that show that he was on?
The Apprentice?
Yeah.
You're fired.
I miss all the good things he did to this country that Biden is undoing.
I'm not gonna lie, I do miss Trump. I do miss Trump. I miss that big tax check that I would get. I miss his bravado. I miss that he made the presidency feel like it was something to reckon with.
I know who you are.
Who am I?
You're Jesse Waters.
That's right.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I seen your face on Fox 5.
You think I'm the weatherman, dude?
Oh.
I'm Waters, and this is my world.
Okay.
So on a more serious note, cyber attacks on the rise, and Biden just hands Putin a paper with our tenderest targets. Tonight, one of the world's most controversial hackers has a warning for the USA. We are in big trouble. Sabu Hector Masagur is a former hacker behind the anonymous Lulz hacking collectives. They attacked places like the Senate, Visa, MasterCard. They called themselves hacktivists. In 2011, Hector hacked the FBI, and he got caught. He became an informant, and after serving time in jail and being banned from the internet for years, he turned things around. Now, he hacks for good, to help people. Here with why the U.S. should be worried, former black hat hacker Hector Masagur. All right, Hector, what is the United States missing with this new cyber war it seems like we're now involved in?
Well, it's a great question. We do not have enough people to deal with the threats. We don't have enough law enforcement that actually understands cyber. And all of the organizations that I've worked with around the nation, and we see the news all the time, still haven't reached a certain threshold in their security posture. So we're going to continue to see these attacks just happen every day, and it's going to get worse and worse. It'll be exponential.
So remember we launched Space Force. Do we need like a new cyber war department, like a separate from the Department of Defense, just to beef up with a bunch of hacktivist people like yourself, maybe ex-black hat hackers, to show us what to do to handle these Russians?
Well, we do have CISA, right? And there's other organizations around there. We do have the computer emergency response teams and all sorts of organizations. The thing is that we kind of need to work together. I think that for a long time, the U.S. government has relied heavily on federal contractors, which I have no problem with for the most part. I think they've improved over the years, but we still need more outside help. That's for sure.
So from a strategic perspective, when Joe Biden hands Putin a list of our top 16 targets that we don't want the Russian hackers to touch, does that sound like something maybe we shouldn't have done from a former hacker's perspective?
Well, I don't think it's a good idea. But the truth of the matter is, and I'll be very honest with you, most of the sophisticated actors will go around those targets. So, yeah, they may have a list of 16 targets or more, but then they will find equivalents, counterparts within the same industries, and just target those and still create the same sort of chaos. Yeah, that's pretty much what we need to be concerned about.
So when you hacked the FBI, how'd they catch you?
Well, it wasn't necessarily attacking the FBI directly. It was, again, going around, right? You go around the target, and they called me because of bad operational security. I mean, I really didn't care to get caught, and that's it led to my downfall. I think at that point in my life, I wanted to be caught and, start my life anew. But there's one thing I would have to say, Mr. Waters, is that a lot of these threat actors, their modus operandi shifts pretty much daily. Their strategies and techniques, tools and procedures are constantly lifted from open source technologies or from each other. So it's very hard to make attribution claims for a lot of these attacks, which is problematic for not only the government, but for yourself as a journalist.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Hector. We appreciate it, and we're glad that you're on the straight and narrow now, because
thank you.
You could have hacked me, and I don't want any of my goodies getting out. It's a world of hurt. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you so much.
Walk through Times Square, and you can see just about anything. Thank you, Bill de Blasio. This video here, though, ignited outrage the minute it went online. It shows a little girl who who looks to be about 3, maybe 4 years old, twerking as the crowd applauds and actually encourages her. Normal Americans shocked by this. This is a problem. New York City's a den of sins, and this is sexual exploitation of a child. Joining me now to react, Fox News contributor Laura Trump. Laura, am I being too uptight, or is this actually sexual exploitation of a child?
That's exactly what it is. I think it's insane that we are seeing this happen. I mean, yes, it's in New York, but it's out on the street with all of these people around, Jesse. We know that everything ends up on the internet. It's going to end up online. I am so shocked by the push to pervert our children that I feel like we constantly see. Look, it was different, I feel like, when we were kids. You didn't have social media. You didn't have smartphones, all these devices. Kids these days grow up fast enough as it is. Why are we pushing them in this direction? Why are we sexualizing them? As a parent of 2 kids myself, I can tell you, you're not going to catch my kids out in Times Square twerking anytime as long as they are under my roof. I think it is disgusting. But these are probably the same folks cheering this on and applauding this that think that it's acceptable for, a 5-year-old to tell them what their gender identity is. So not surprised that there's a group of folks out there on the woke left that think this is really cute.
Well, you mentioned the gender identity situation, and this has been an issue with this, I believe it's called Drag Queen Story Hours. It's a PBS situation. It's spreading all across the country, where drag queens read very provocative stories to young children at libraries and all sorts of different platforms. Here's just a little look at what it looks like. So, Laura, they're presenting this to 8-year-olds. Now, when I was 8, I didn't think about anything sexual. We're not trying to say anything about drag queens or transgender people. They can dress up or be whoever they want to be. But to hoist them on 8-year-olds or 7-year-olds, there has to be some sort of ulterior motive here, isn't it?
Well, it's on PBS, Jesse. I mean, this is not on some obscure channel online. It's on PBS, which, most parents can turn to and say, well, this is acceptable programming for my child. Look, I don't care what makes people happy. If it makes you happy to dress up as a cow, knock yourself out. But why are we pushing this on our kids? I think you're asking a very appropriate question. What is the motivation behind this? My goodness, there are a lot of adults that are still confused about, why is it that people feel like they want to do this?
Yeah, you want to let the kid decide on their own.
Or confused?
Right. You don't want to course correct his path subtly at that tender age. And the head of PBS, Paula Kerger, I guess, is okay with this. Real quick, they did a study. A bunch of parents took masks off their young children, gave it to a lab. Turns out all these masks that these kids have been wearing, just infested with just disgusting things. Meningitis, pneumonia. It's horrible. You got to take the masks off these kids. I'll give you the last word quickly.
Oh, absolutely. The kids should not be wearing masks. Yeah, they found pretty much everything on these masks except COVID-19. We know that it's not, the efficacy of them with COVID has been disputed for ages. Nobody's washing their masks. Get them off of our kids. It is absolutely ridiculous. Enough is enough with the masks on the kids.
Maybe put the mask over their eyes during drag queen story time. Maybe we could cut a deal.
Great
All
use.
right, Laura, thank you very much. Children really under assault in this country these days. Next, Karens.